Hey everyone, we are Kairos Coffee Chats. Thank you so much for tuning in today.
Today's episode will be one of our many Teaology Talks, where we specifically address tough questions regarding Christianity.
We are very aware of all the tea that comes with theology. So, this is our space to spill it all.
So buckle up and let's dive in.
What's going on, guys? My name is Ryan,
I'm Jared.
and we are Kairos Coffee Chats.
This podcast exists as a safe space for you to bring your questions and rethink faith so you can encounter Jesus personally.
We are back in the new year with our first Teaology Talks of the year.
Let's go.
Our last one, if you guys are caught up now. First off, thank you for those who have been listening and are caught up.
Yes. Big props to y'all.
We've been having an awesome time just engaging in these conversations and getting feedback from people, even comments on YouTube, which we'll address in this episode.
Yeah. It's just been low-key fun just even doing this. This is something that I never thought I would do, haven't ever done, even the little stuff like video editing.
All that stuff is
making the clips, making thumbnails. It's just like a whole new thing. So it's been fun for us, but...
Which I'm pretty sure your thumbnail for the last video is what got us to 100 views on YouTube.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It was intentional. It was intentionally provocative. Not like that provocative, but just
get your head out of the gutter.
Could be controversial.
No
yeah.
kidding.
Yeah, we haven't talked about lust yet, so. But yeah, speaking of that, yeah, we got some comments, we got some interaction on YouTube and Facebook, or I'm sorry, not Facebook, YouTube and Instagram. And it was fun little combative stuff. It was good.
Yeah.
We want to, this isn't a direct retort, but it kind of flows with where we were going anyway. So we'll make a little pit stop here and respond to some of the comments. Mm-hmm. But it might be a new year, but it's the same old Kairos Coffee Chats. So
yes. Icebreaker
time. If you had one streaming service and one only, which one are you taking? Of all the hundreds that are out there.
There's a lot now.
There's a lot. Just try and go watch a football game. You'll find out that there's a lot. It was driving me and my fam nuts, bro. Because it's like Thursday Night Football is on Amazon. And then Sundays on freaking Fox, CBS, and Paramount.
Uh-huh.
But then Mondays on ESPN. And those are all different streamings.
That sucks that they all can't be on one.
Exactly, because money.
Money. Capitalism. Man, I don't know. Like, mine's a toss-up between Crunchyroll and maybe Hulu. Okay, my top pick would have to be Crunchyroll.
Fair.
It would have to be that with all the anime that I watch / we watch, since I do borrow his Crunchyroll account. So, and we do make good use of it. Thank you.
Yo, you do. You and Jess be plowing through episodes, man.
We do indeed. My second choice, it could be Netflix too, because some good shows, like old shows like Avatar, showed up on Netflix recently.
That's true.
So some classic ones have been showing up.
The live action Avatar.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good call.
Yeah, but then,
we'll just do top three. So Crunchyroll, Netflix, and
Disney Plus probably.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah, that had to be the other one.
Yeah.
I'm still not caught up on all the Phase 4 like shows. I'm caught up with. I'm actually not caught up with Loki, but Loki.
Do that one. Loki was a good one. Even
Yeah.
season 2, that was good.
Okay.
Very entertaining. I skipped Agatha. It just
that came out recently. That's right.
Just too much, bro. Just like it just did not get me at all. I'm just like, I miss me with it. I'm fine.
I mean, there are quite a few that have not appealed to me either. So
yeah. So okay, yeah. For me, I'm super similar. It was literally like a toss up for number one between Crunchyroll and Disney Plus. Okay. Because one, anime. Enough said.
Of course.
And then two, Disney Plus, because it's got Star Wars, it's got Marvel, it's got like the stuff that I love. So that's a toss up. If I had to pick, I would probably pick Crunchyroll.
Okay.
I think I'd pick Crunchyroll.
All right.
But for top 3, yeah, Crunchyroll, Disney Plus, and then probably Max, because Max has all the DC stuff.
Oh,
And then
I didn't know that.
And then like Lord of the Rings is on there, Matrix is on there. It's like all the Warner Brothers stuff.
Oh, okay.
All the Cartoon Network, including Ben 10.
There was this old show that I watched called Infinity Train. It was a cartoon that came out on Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
And it was on Max, but then they took it off. So now you can't find it on Max. So I guess I would have chosen Max, but now the show's off, unfortunately. But
Max used to have Jujutsu Kaisen too.
Oh, they did?
For the first season, they had it for a bit, and then they took it down, and then now it's Crunchyroll only.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, without further ado, so one of the things that Jared and I have been talking through when we're planning these new episodes is not that we haven't been being intentional and haven't been not doing our research. We have been doing that with our past episodes and up until now. But
Trying to have guests that also kind of speak to things that we want to talk about, etc.
Yeah. So one of the things that the comments kind of brought up to us was just, maybe doing more homework than we have been. Not that we haven't been, but we want to present, especially for those of you who are listening to our podcasts and are seeking faith, who are even antagonistic to the faith, or are new to faith. We want to provide answers to the best of our ability as lay people, as just regular people, to questions that seem little incompatible with biblical teachings or with Christianity as a whole.
Yeah.
So what we have done, as a brief recap of season 1 is we've talked through what does it mean to be Christian? What does it mean to be a part or a follower of Jesus, of the kingdom? Who is God? Who is Jesus? Who is the Holy Spirit? Those big kind of macro topics, we call them first bucket issues in our church. Those are the things that matter to us, that we believe are at the core of the Bible and what the Bible teaches.
That's exactly it. If any of those things are not true, the whole faith kind of falls.
And we've tried to give some level of not just biblical reasoning for our faith, but logical and evidence-based reasoning for our faith also.
Hence why half of our episodes are testimonies of how this stuff practically plays out in people's lives.
Yeah. And those testimonies and the stories of the people that we have interviewed, Christian and non-Christian, has been really powerful to us too. It's transformed us to see people differently. And because these aren't just words on a page that can impact people and their minds, but it can impact people at the level of their hearts. That's what we truly believe. And so as we dive into this next season, our goal for you, hopefully we can accomplish this, is to have answers that are even more thoughtful than before. We just want to do a better job at providing clarity, at providing resources also for those who are curious about Christianity as a whole.
And as we said before, like these comments have done, call us out. We're open to a little reproof. That's why we're sitting here giving you this. We want to know our blind spots, where we fall short, and we want to give you guys not just a incomplete straw man of the faith that we based our whole life on. We don't want to do that.
Yeah. This is an invitation too for those of you who are listening who might not know us. If you would like to come on one of our episodes and have an interview and a dialogue about your story, about what you believe, we would love to have you on here.
Yeah, this is open floor.
Yeah, that's why we're called Coffee Chats. We're hoping to
it's just
have
a chat.
Chats.
Yeah,
We're just chatting with you. That's our whole goal and vibe of our podcast is we want to dialogue with others. As much as we love talking amongst the two of us, we want to have people in this room to really, bounce ideas off of, grow ourselves as people, and not just be stuck in an echo chamber of.
That's a big thing. Yeah, no echo chamber. We want to be challenged. We want to be pushed. We want to see from other perspectives because not everyone has the same one as us. So yeah, as Ryan was saying, like we kind of gave we kind of in our talks tell our theological statement, just like what we hold to those first bucket issues, and then right at the tail end, we had what we call a secondary issue, just not as essential kind of stuff, but it is a question. Like it was the dinosaurs episode, and that's the one that like got more traction and got more pull from people. So some of the comments that we had was like, religion just isn't evidence-based at all. We were just out here blindly believing things from a book, whereas we need to put our faith in science because it's provable and has proof, and you can test it over and over and it comes out. Another one was that we're going to the Bible for scientific information, that we're just I think the word was chuckleheads. That I'm just laughing at it. Like I don't take any offense. Like that was pretty good one. I haven't heard that one in a while. But that we're going to the Bible. We're going to this text that doesn't make any sense to go to for scientific information. So as we were getting those, we were just like, man, like we were kind of doing it not quite in jest, but like it wasn't like one of the big ones we were talking about. It's not like the divinity of Christ. Was he real or not? Is the Bible reliable? It was this like, how did dinosaurs fit in? Just like just these kind of things. But we're realizing like this is a first bucket issue for people who aren't Christian, it seems like. So we want to start pressing into it, and it, like I said, it kind of goes with how we were trying to flow anyway.
Yeah, we briefly mentioned like the purpose of science and religion in that episode on dinosaurs and evolution. For us, it was a very fun conversation with Chris.
Yeah. Shout out Chris.
Yeah, he's awesome. Provided some cool theories on what dinosaurs living amongst humans could have looked like in the Bible.
And that's another thing. Yeah. That's another thing. Like we were talking about first and second bucket issues. The first bucket issues, if any of them are wrong, that's problematic for the faith of Christianity. The secondary ones, if the entire episode was nonsense, if the entire episode we were wrong, just 100%, it does not affect Christianity. Yeah. Because as we'll get into, like, that's not the purpose of it. It's just some fun stuff to talk about and wonder and speculate and come up with theories and those kind of things.
Yeah. So we weren't talking about dinosaurs and living amongst humans in the Bible as like definite, this proves the Bible 100% or not. Because that's not the point of the Bible in the first place.
We're looking for clues. Like, does it talk about this? This kind of looks like it. And that's what we're doing. Like looking through Job, looking through Genesis. It talks about the Leviathan, the behemoth. Like, or those dinosaurs, were they other things? Like, there's no slam dunk case on either side. Yeah. So it's just like, what do you think?
Yeah. And the essentials of the faith, as we call first bucket issues or primary issues, we'll use those terms interchangeably as we talk about these topics. Dinosaurs don't affect those issues. And we want to talk about like the relationship between those two a little in more depth today, because we kind of glossed over it briefly in the beginning. And about like that there's this misconception that I feel like even I grew up with and wrestled with as a kid. And as you're taking, science classes in elementary school, you learn about the fossil record, you learn about the evolution of supposedly monkey to man, right? So even I had questions of these sorts when I was a kid, but I've come to realize like that there is a purpose for science and a purpose for religion. Let's take Christianity out of the picture for now. Let's just say religion at a general level,
at a macro, all of it.
Yeah. So we'll talk about those individually. So what would you say about like what is the purpose of science?
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about, is like the what we got from the comments was that science and religion are incompatible. And we're like, we don't believe that. Why is that? So backing up, as Ryan was saying, the purpose of science, when we look at the Oxford definition, science is the systematic study of the structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation, experimentation, and the testing of theories against the evidence obtained. The key words and the operating words there are physical and natural world. Literally, the things you can see, smell, taste, touch, feel, hear with your five senses.
Everything you can observe.
That is the realm of science. That's what it can be used for. And that's low-key what we were talking about. Like time, when did matter come in, the age of the physical world. That's what we were talking about.
So when we observe things like natural selection in species, in animal species, when we observe things like the water cycle, I'm starting to think through all of the lessons I learned in
I know, the
elementary now,
freaking,
right?
that was, I remember struggling a little bit with like learning about the watershed and like just all these kind of things. It's just like, dang, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Birdwalk, sorry. So that's what science is. That's the definition of science. Religion, on the other hand, what it deals with, what it entails is trying to answer questions outside of the material world. When we talk about meaning and purpose of life, when we talk about what does it mean, what is the difference between good and evil, and where is that line between what is good and what is evil? What happens to us after we die? These like longings for this intense feeling of death is wrong, life is what's good, and there must be something after this. This is where religion comes in. This is the questions meant to be answered. I remember seeing not so long ago, there was an Instagram reel that came up, and it's Ricky Gervais, famous atheist. He's a comedian and stuff, but he's like super outspoken atheist. And he was talking. I think it was on that Hot Ones, the wing eating thing. And he was talking, and he was like, if you take every single science textbook, burn them, get rid of them. If you take every single religious textbook, burn them, get rid of them. In 3,000 years, those science books will be back exactly the way they were, but the religion ones won't. They'll have made up something different. And that's the key thing. Science can be proven over time. It's repeatable. It's going to be the same. And it's like, he said it's so matter of fact. It was like a freaking slam dunk. Like, that is atheism in a nutshell. That's why it works. And it fails to account for what we just talked about. Sure, that is true. The books will be back there. But the questions we have about things that science is not meant to address, i.e., love. We all know love is a real thing. Love you cannot measure. Love you cannot quantify. Love you cannot prove. You can prove, like you can't prove it. Even if you do actions, you could suspect an ulterior motive. You just literally can't prove it, but we all know love is a real thing. These kind of questions that point to more than the physical, those religion books will be back because we have those questions that need to be answered, and we look where we can and have those questions. So it's like that's another way where it's just like they're meant to do different things.
Yeah. And you ever wonder why, like, we're the only organisms on the world, like in the world, that are able to even comprehend meaning and love and purpose in the first place?
I had some, I'll save it for later.
All right. Anywho. Yeah. So if we were to categorize these kinds of questions that science and religion answer separately into 4 different categories, which I like to think about these. I'll get these from one of my favorite teachers, Ravi Zacharias, who may or may not be a controversial figure for you if you have been
he
in the Christian
definitely
world.
is, but it doesn't. He said some right things.
Yeah.
Like he has some merit. I mean, any figure in the Bible is controversial.
Yeah.
We talk about that.
So I do like his framework on how he organizes the 4 big questions that every person has to answer when it comes to their worldview. Is whatever you believe, whatever you take as like how the world works, and what gives your life meaning ultimately. You can separate these into 4 different categories: questions of origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. So origin deals with questions of how did this world or universe come to be? Where did I come from? Meaning talks about what is the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? What's the purpose for existing? What is the purpose for other things existing in this universe? Morality, what defines good and evil? What is the basis for how we can even call something evil in the first place, or call something else good for that matter? And destiny, what happens to us after we die. Throughout these next few episodes, and hopefully going forward in this season, we believe that Christianity, we will make our case that our worldview answers these 4 questions with logical consistency, empirical adequacy, and experiential relevance. So those are big words I just
was
used.
literally like,
So what I mean by those terms is when I say logical consistency, like these answers follow the rules of logic. Empirical adequacy, meaning the evidence is solid. It's not, on a feeble
flimsy, it's not hearsay.
Yeah, it's not on a feeble foundation. And then experiential relevance. Can this be experienced by people or by other things in our reality right now? So those 4 questions again: origin, meaning, morality, and destiny.
Mm-hmm.
And we believe Christianity can do that with logical consistency, empirical adequacy, and experiential relevance.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to put these things in layman's terms because this guy actually went to college.
Please do.
So let's run with that train of thought that we were getting comments on about how religion is just it is flimsy. It's not to be trusted. It's just hearsay. It's to manipulate you by the government. It was all put together at the Council of Nicaea. All the
To placate you, to listen to...
anybody who's read the Da Vinci Code knows.
Oh my gosh.
But I kid. So if we have science without religion, we have unanswered questions. Sure, we can tell you how hot the sun's burning. We can tell you the power of gravity. We can tell you the speed of light. These kind of things. But when it comes down to should we take care of people that are infertile? That's a moral question, because if you just have science, and I've heard it said, like I've had friends, I've had these conversations who think the purpose of life is to procreate, is to make more life. Well, then what do you do when you have infertile people?
They can't even fulfill that purpose.
They can't fulfill the purpose of life. What you deem as the purpose of life.
Yeah.
So then we just have this slippery slope of subjective morality. And that's a world no one wants to live in, because we all have morals. We have some of the morals, or at least they're mostly agreed upon, which I don't think a lot of people understand just how much of Western civilization is based upon Christianity in the first place. When we see a lion taking down a zebra, circle of life, nobody bats an eye.
Food cycle.
It's providing for itself.
Yep. That's how things are.
It's how it is. That's life.
Yeah.
That's just how it was designed to go. It's to keep the ecosystem running.
Yep.
It's right. So that's good. If I take advantage of somebody to put me ahead, not even kill him. I'm not saying kill him. I'm just saying Ponzi scheme. Just taking advantage of people. We all say that's bad. We all say that's not how you're supposed to conduct yourself. But again, we're taking religion out of the picture. Why? That's the question we're stuck with. Because if it's just, what is wrong with me looking out for me, getting ahead at the expense of other people? All that science tells us is that we are a cluster of atoms and molecules that happened here by accident after a big bang. So there's no real purpose. If one person goes away, one person doesn't procreate, I'll make up for them. I'll grab their wife and procreate.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Like, what's wrong with adultery? Like, there is no standard that you can judge against. It's subjective, as I said.
Yeah. And if we were to talk about, like, from a science level, like, if we were just existing based off pure science alone, without any higher power or deity in mind, just like what you're saying, there's no moral basis for condemning anyone for doing anything wrong or for getting angry if Hitler kills millions of Jews or people. And if I'm just a random bunch of atoms that happen by accident, that just happen to collide together and form my body and my mind, that means that I'm just a process of chemical reactions that I'm just doing what I was programmed to do.
And I'm gonna tell, like, we don't live our lives like that. That's the biggest thing. Like, we don't live our lives like that, because if we did live our lives by that, we would have no justice system.
Yeah, we wouldn't be so angry when someone gets unalived.
Because we can't. If it was just your choices and your emotions and your actions are just chemical processes, you're just fated to do that because that process happened. That's the logical outcome. But we don't do that. We hold people accountable for their actions. We have choice. We have free will. Another thing that is beyond the realm of science. You can't prove. A conscious mind, you can't prove. So the fact that we have these kind of things that, no, you can't just do whatever you want. There are consequences. It has to point back. There has to be a standard outside of us. Because even if you make standards, even if you just say, okay, yeah, killing people is wrong. If it just becomes a majority vote, then how are we, if it changes, who's to say? Then it's still subjective. It's just, it just moves less. You want to talk about, as a black man, if I was in 1800s, I'm outvoted about how people with my complexion are treated. It does not change the objective truth that I'm still a human.
And you have intrinsic value in worth.
There is intrinsic value. It does not matter if the majority does not agree. That's what capital T truth is. It's unchanging. Facts can change. It is a fact I'm sitting in this chair right now. That will not be a fact in an hour and a half when we're done here and I'm leaving. That's the difference between like facts and truth. So when we talk about truth, that's what we're trying to get to. And the truth is, there has to be objective. There has to be something a standard outside of us. And that's where religion comes in.
We believe our standard that comes outside or external of any of our subjective experience, that comes from God, the God of the Bible specifically. That's where we land, because we have found that He's reliable for one thing. And not just because we believe in a book. We believe that Jesus was a historical person. If you listen to our episode on who is Jesus, the Son of God, we go into like why we believe that Jesus was a historical person who actually lived, who claimed to be God, who lived a certain way, and lived countercultural to what the majority said, and died a sacrificial death that he didn't have to die. He decided to do it anyway. His whole life was defined by love, his entire life. And you don't get that from a scientific single vision of life where you're just doing things just because you're programmed to do so, So go ahead and marry however many women or have as many partners as you want. Go ahead and just accumulate resources without
at the expense of others.
Yep. Go ahead and just live your life. You do you. Live your truth, because your reality is that you're here to enjoy life. So it doesn't matter about, like, other people don't matter. But we don't live that way. We really don't live that way. No. Even if you say that or believe that, you don't live out that way. None of us do. You trust someone to stop at a stoplight because the evidence has shown that people have been trained to stop at a stoplight when it turns red. And you trust that most people, the majority of people, will stop at that red light, right?
It's literally why when they don't, it makes the news.
Exactly. When you say that you're going to try and prove something, when anyone says that, to prove something is to show with beyond a reasonable doubt that it cannot be any other way. But we can only know so much as the evidence that has been provided to us. Jared and I have been friends for years now. I cannot 100% prove that he won't stab me when I'm like randomly just turned around, right? But the evidence has shown throughout our friendship and years of trust and time together, and the actions that he has shown me, is that he won't do that. So, but I cannot prove 100% perfectly.
Yeah.
right? That he would do that.
Because even in the evidence, it's only what has happened.
So when we take that evidence and we look at how Jesus lived his life as a historical person, as given to us in the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, according to the eyewitnesses who wrote about him and saw him, and even outside the Bible, other authors attesting to his crucifixion and his resurrection, and the fact that so many people died willingly for their faith when they didn't have to, but they did, because so many people in the first 3 centuries of the church, of the Christian church, they chose to die for something that they believed was true. People would not die for something that they believed to be a lie.
Yeah.
For that many years. And within 300 years, the population of Christians grew from like a few thousand to millions.
During, like, while they were being actively killed, it was still growing. It's just wild. And me and Ryan, I just want to say this. We definitely are going to go more into, like Ryan threw out the facts of just like, you can see Jesus' life in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We know there are some of you that don't put stock in the Bible. That's fine. We need to supply you evidence. And this is how we kind of go back to, we want to know what we're talking about. We have some facts. We know some of our history that's bolstered our faith in why the Bible is reliable. But for people who have these kind of questions, we want to do more homework. We will come back and visit this like more in depth. But we don't want to sit here not pretending, but just we want to do our homework. So we'll go to you. We want to come back and give you the historical, the historicity behind why the Bible is reliable. It was, of course, written by men and compiled by people. But we want to show you why we believe that it's God guiding the hands of those people over thousands of years. So that's something we want to revisit at a later time.
And we will also supplement that continually, as we have been doing, with our testimonies, our interviews with Christians and non-Christians. For those who are Christians who are on our podcast, those interviews and those stories, those people, even for us who have different stories with the church, with Jesus, with Christianity, the stories of these people also serves as evidence of God in their lives. Because even if we tell you all of this evidence, and give you a historical account of why we believe the Bible, why we believe Jesus is reliable and trustworthy, that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to believe in it. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to put your full-on trust in him and live your life and actually encounter Jesus in the way he wants to encounter you. It has to be personal. That's why the experiential relevance is a part of the Christian life. You have to experience it yourself. It's not just up here. It's got to hit in here in the heart.
So many of us are like that. Like, we want to know, like, what's in it for me? How does this affect me? And that's fair. That is completely fair. We're not trying to shame you like, oh, you should just accept it. No. God himself knows what trials and everything that you go through that you want to get out of. Like, we want to not escape pain, but we want to know that we are worth more. We want to know that we have value. We want to know that we are known and loved. And God's willing to, whatever reasons you have to press into him more, even if it's a doubting questioning, he can use that. So whatever heart posture you got right now, headspace you're in, bring it.
The scientific single vision of life, if we just use that vision of life, it cannot answer those questions, as we have said already, of meaning, morality, and destiny. It cannot tell you why you should love your partner or your girlfriend or your wife self-sacrificially and be committed to that one partner. It cannot tell you why you should be in community with others. It cannot tell you why you should serve one another at the expense of your own time and resources. That's what science fails to do. It cannot give you a basis for deeming anything as good or evil. We don't believe in just having a blind faith of just believing the Bible because the Bible says so. Yes. I believe the Bible says so, that phrase, is not a sufficient answer. Even for us, that's not a sufficient answer. Just because the Bible says so does not mean we should automatically believe it. We have to discern. We have to have wisdom. We have to experience that for ourselves too. What the Bible says.
Now, when I was little, my parents might say because I said so, but there was a belt on the other end, so I just did it.
God's not like that.
God's not like that.
He's not there with the belt.
He's
or
not
with
there.
The, what was it? A switch? You and Chris talked about.
Switch. All right. Yeah.
He's not there with the switch, waiting to say like, "Oh,
switch up your attitude.
I said so, so therefore you should obey me, because I will punish you if you don't obey me."
It's not fear mongering.
That is not the kind of God we believe in. We believe in a God who loves you. He will discipline those he loves like children, but not in the way that, not to punish us, to discipline us, to become better and become the people that he made us to be.
It's low key like when a coach pushes you in practice. They see something that they want to get out of you.
Yes.
The minute they stop talking to you, you got issues because it's like you're not worth the time. Yeah. It's a rough example. It falls short to encapsulate an infinite God. But that's kind of what it's like. God knows you have value and you are one of his children. So he disciplines you in the way to bring more of himself out of you and will put himself more in you.
Because you were made in his image.
Yes.
He made you. That is a objective truth that we believe in, is that he created you perfectly. Well, we are still tainted by sin, obviously, but he still made you in his image. And you are able to reflect his image should you choose to trust in him. And when you do that, your life will change forever.
Yes.
And we'll be more practical on that, on like what that actually looks like in a future episode. We'll end with this one verse, Hebrews 11, 1-3, which talks about the kind of faith that we have in the Bible. It's not just blind faith. It is a well-reasoned faith.
Hebrews 11, 1-3. We got the CSB version. Now, faith is the reality of what is hoped for, the proof of what is not seen. For by this our ancestors were approved. By faith, we understand that the universe was created by the word of God, so that what is seen was made from things that are not visible. What this is saying is like, he goes on in this chapter. Our church has been going through Hebrews, and we just did this. It's called the Hall of Faith. He goes through all of these Old Testament figures who just how much their faith was accredited to them, and their faith wasn't just because it was based on what God had already done. Yeah. In the beginning, God does something. Our faith is based on the fact that we are here at all. The numbers testify to the fact that it is more probable for us not to exist than to exist. So it just stems from that. Like, we're here. There's a reason. And then through lived experiences in life and walking with God, you have just more and more evidence. And this is where it comes in. All the things that we don't know that are in the future, we can have faith knowing what's in the past and what's happened, what God has already done, his character and his faithfulness.
So the people that the writer of this book is writing to, he is telling these new Christians, like, God has done a work and he has shown evidence of his faith, his faithfulness and his trustworthy character in the past. Therefore, you can trust him now.
Yes.
So that is why I am a Christian. Because of what God has done in my life, I will continue to trust him, even if I continue to doubt and have questions in the future. Because my faith is not based on how strong my faith is, the intensity of my faith.
Yes.
It is the object of what I put my faith in, or who I put my faith in.
Right.
And God is a firm foundation.
That's where it comes into. You can have the faith of a mustard seed. I think we used this example on here before, but it was like if you're falling off a cliff and you have strong faith that this branch will save you, but the branch is dead and withered and it breaks. It didn't matter about your faith. But if you have a little faith, just enough to reach out for a branch that you're falling off a cliff, and it's firmly rooted and it holds you, it wasn't your faith, it was the branch that saved you. That's what Jesus is. It doesn't matter the size of our faith. He increases our faith over time as we get to know him, but ultimately he's the steady one. He's the one that does miracles. He's the one that gives us what we need when we need it.
We often don't know what we need.
No, for real. That's another
Yeah.
That'll preach on its own.
Yeah. Totally other episode. But until then, we hope that this episode at least helped to clarify some things as we're going forward in the kinds of questions that we want to help give clarity to. If not fully answer, at least give some direction towards.
If I had to sum it up, pretty much, we came in with, the people think the science versus religion. We're here trying to tell you science and religion. That's what we believe.
Yes.
We just see science as pointing back as more evidence to what God does.
Science testifies to the God of the Bible, and it's a beautiful thing. You can just fall in love with the ocean, how vast it is, how small you feel in comparison to it. That's how much God loves us, how immense the ocean is. It's all meant to point us back to him. Thank you guys for joining us on our first Teaology Talks of the new year. We can't wait to see where this goes from here. And hope you guys will continue to tune in and support us. And thank you guys again for everything that you've done so far for us.
Happy New Year. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace.
Later.